2010, and some of you would have been very young, if you went to a bar and if you said, I do implementation work, it actually was very, very cool. Now, from 2010 to 2020, which is the past decade, with the smartphone penetration and with the cheap internet and the platform economies like Uber, what became very cool is digital. Digital became a key word in all solutions. So if you look at IT companies, 20 to 40% of their revenue comes from digital. E-com as a channel picked up. There were 18 unicorns now in India. So digital became the key word going in 2010 and 2020. Now, if you look at predicting in this decade, what is likely to happen is earlier in the 1990s, strategy was cool, then implementation became cool, then digital became cool. In this decade, there are two things that are likely to happen. One, you will see consulting firms move towards the private equity route. They will try, similar to what Bain Capital does, they will try and buy out certain companies. They will run the company, they will transform the company, and they'll sell out the company. That's one. The second thing, what consulting will happen is consulting will look at a broader base of services. It will no longer be about strategy, implementation, or digital. You will have analytics start coming in. You will start seeing cybersecurity start coming in. You will see technology playing a very big hand. You will see creative intelligence. You will see ethnography. You will see consumer research. You will see a lot of creative skills starting to come in. What it means for you is when you enter the job market now or post your MBA a few years later, you will be expected to know not just strategy, not just implementation, not just analytics, but you'll be expected to know cybersecurity, you'll be expected to know technology, you'll be expected to know storytelling, you'll be expected to know ethnography. So that's how the industry is likely to evolve. I'll spend some more time on the consulting. I'm still on the leftmost column of the slide. See, as an industry in terms of business, this industry is fairly recession proof. When things go well, the typical type of assignments that come to a consulting firm are, I want to enter this market. Can you help me? I want to grow my revenue from 8% a year to 12% a year. Can you do something for me? When markets don't go well, like what we just faced right now, there is still some work that keeps coming. Work is in lines of, can you save some cost for me? I have a very expensive workforce in the US. Can you build a shared service center and transport some of that workforce to India? Can you build a growth strategy roadmap for me? So as an industry, it is fairly recession proof. So when the economy goes down, it is not that business goes to zero. Business takes a hit, but it does not goes to zero. The second point is in terms of evolution of business problems. Like I mentioned, the 90s were about strategy, 2000s became implementation, the last decade was about digital. The next decade will be about trying to solve any possible service that anybody in the company might have. So it is not just strategy, implementation, digital, it's cyber, it's creativity, it's storytelling, it's media management. Everything will come in the space of consulting. Now, a minute in terms of how consulting projects are. So, in terms of, I'll start with duration first. In the 1990s, where there was a lot of strategy projects are typically 2 to 3 months. So, if you saw the nature of work those days, it used to be about 70 to 80% projects that were short projects, 2 to 3 months. Then you came to the implementation phase, and implementation projects are typically longer, from 12 to 18 months. So the 2000 to 2010, you would slowly see the strategy percentage of strategy projects would go down to 30% and 70% would start becoming implementation work. In the last decade, digital became a big consulting source of lever. So digital projects are also very long, about 12 to 18 months. So digital started becoming 30 to 40% of the work. And as we go into the next decade, you will see that strategy will be about, say, 20, 25%. Implementation and digital projects would be about 40, 50%, and the rest 25% would be for some of the newer services which I spoke of. Now, coming to the second column in terms of how is the FMCG industry expected to evolve. See, because of COVID, there are a few things you have to understand in terms of key trends. Let's start with consumer behavior. And you and all of us are consumers in this. What has happened is consumers have turned very safe. What this means is they are looking at hygiene in everything. So, for example, now they will look and say, is the packaging fine? If I'm buying the biscuit, does the cover look correct? Is the cover being, how many people have handled that cover? If I'm buying a shampoo bottle, does the bottle cover look clean? So people have been looking at hygiene. People have been looking at safety. What this also means is people are thinking that let me try and see if I can buy from a person of trust. So initially, when the COVID situation started, a lot of people thought e-com would pick up a lot, e-commerce, buying online like big basket. E-commerce is typically 1% in FMCG. That number, even after COVID, just went up to 2 or 3. What really happened is the Kirana shot up. And the Kirana shot up. Kirana is the general grocer, the mom and pop store, because people had a certain element of trust. There were certain supplies that were available. They used to give credit, and hence the Kirana store shot up. That's so going forward. One of the trends that you will see, and some of the work you will do, is bringing this entire Kirana, which is 85% of FMCG, and how do you modernize them? So GeoMart is making an attempt to do it. So there will be technological solutions. Facebook is coming in. There will be technology to modernize the Kirana. You will have to manage the inventory at the Kirana. There will have to be last mile delivery. So, for example, you call up the local Kirana and he will deliver at your house. So, one of the big consumer trends is going to be this modernization of Kirana. One of the second biggest trends you will see, and a lot of talk, is around China. And if you look at FMCG, a lot of the procurement doesn't actually happen from China. If you look at your major categories, milk happens largely from Gujarat. If you look at wheat, rice, a lot of this happens through farmers in India. And the impact of China in most FMCG cases is actually overrated. The third thing that you will see from a supply chain perspective is greater modernization of the supply chain. This is what ITC had started many years ago. They're like players like Ninja Cart, where they say from the farm to the fork. So from directly from the farmer they will buy, and the fork which you use to eat, it will come directly from that. That is a lot you will see in terms of usage of technology to handle the back end supply chain. So from the farmer directly, the company will buy. So that's one of the emerging trends that you will see in terms of FMCG. In terms of career paths, what happens in FMCG is that whether you're coming in as a brilliant young graduate like you are, or a fairly established MBA, there's a very clear career path. There's typically a management training program or a graduate training program that is about 12 to 18 months. In a company like Marico Britannia, it's 12 months. In a company like Levers, it's about 18 months. And you will do multiple stints across that. You'll have a sales stint, you'll have a marketing stint, you'll have an international business stint, you'll have a supply stint, you'll have an HR stint, and then at the end of the year and a half, you will get allocated to some team. And then after 2 to 3 years, you keep moving up in the firm. So for someone like you, let's look at what are some of the FMCG stints you will be doing. So if you come in a sales role, if you typically come in the sales role, what you will do is they will give you a state or a territory, and you will become an ASM, an area sales manager. You will be responsible to drive growth of the region. You might do something which is in sales planning. So this will be a head office based role where you'll be working with the sales team, and you will identify that what are the trade schemes I should run, what are the incentives I should run for my team, why is sales happening, why is sales not happening. If you are operating out of the plant, and some of you who come with a more technical background, you will either be a part of, either you will run a plant if you come from an administration point of view, or if you're coming from a more technical point of view, you will be a part of, say, the Unilever R&D team, or you'll be a part of the production quality team, and you'll be looking at the more technical side of things. Another type of work which you might do is on procurement excellence. So procurement means getting the raw materials for the farmer. And you will actually look at securing the supply, working across multiple farmers or working across multiple sources of raw material, reducing the cost, driving the productivity, vendor negotiations like we speak about. From a supply chain and logistics, it's a lot of work that is happening in this space, especially after the GST came in. And you might actually do a lot of analytics thinking in terms of, do we need so many warehouses in India, given that people can move in from anywhere? Especially after COVID, now everyone's re-looking at it because if one warehouse goes down because and people get sick, you need an adjacent warehouse close by, or else operations get stuck. So how many warehouses do you need post-COVID? How should it be run? How much inventory should you keep at each warehouse? And a lot of it is mathematical, Excel-based, IQ-based modeling. So this is some of the work you might do going forward. The other type of work, if you're looking at the HR, is looking at benchmarking compensation. That's typically someone who comes with a very left brain, someone like you will come in, does it in terms of it across career levels, what sort of compensation is getting paid at each level, what is competition paying, which percentile do you want to stand in, some of that work. What I've also seen a lot of work is young graduates, young intelligent graduates might be given is one export market. Say after COVID opens up, they might give you and say, just go to Bangladesh, stay there for 6 months, and just tell us how to make sense of that country, or go to Indonesia, stay there for 6 months, and how do we actually push, or go to Egypt and figure out. So these are some of the FMCG assignments that you should expect once you get into the job market. Now let's talk about, I'm on the third column of this slide in terms of what is a day in the life of these industries. In both the industries, whether it's consulting and whether it's FMCG, if you have followed these two series online, whether it's House of Lies or Mad Men, I'm sure you've seen it in my campus. But a lot of what they show is what happens in real life. If you see House of Lies, there is a chaos every day. People are juggling client meetings and consulting. People are doing multiple interviews. Some of the ethics are in the area of gray, and that is exactly what happens in the real world. Every day is high pressure. You will have 12 hours, 14 hours. People will be breathing down your neck. It is ultra competitive. You will be put into some uncharted territory. For example, tomorrow you might join in. Day after, if the travel restriction goes up, they'll fly you to Kalimantan in Indonesia and they will put you in a mining camp and say, can you help turn this mine around? This is a likely scenario, what I'm telling you. Similarly, with FMCG, there will be because of FMCG, you work with a lot of people, you work with a lot of channel partners. Every day something will go wrong. You will have to go there, keep a calm head, resolve the situation so all the numbers keep happening. So coming to all this, and given that this industry is so difficult, both these industries are so difficult, ours are so long. So what are the pros and cons of this industry? Why do people run after these two industries? So let's start with consulting. And you would have heard all of this, is one of the joint pros you will see is the phenomenal experience you will get in terms of traveling. I have been a part of both industries. I would have traveled to 40 countries. In India, I have seen every state, most villages I have seen. I've been to Kumbh Mela last year because I wanted to study how marketing is getting done in Kumbh Mela. Some of the experiences you will have will be absolutely phenomenal in life. When I was starting off after IIM, I was 24, 25, and I was touring the whole of UP. And for some of you who don't come from that part of India, I grew up at least in the metros. It's a phenomenal experience to go to Allahabad, to go to Banaras, to look at Kanpur. And I remember I went to a place near Gorakhpur once, and I was talking to a partner, someone who owns a dealer. This guy was a Tata Motors dealer, and he was a very rich guy there. He was 300, 400 crores. This is Eastern UP. For some of you who come from Eastern UP, you know how things run there. I was a fresh IIM grad, consulting firms train us to make nice slides. The numbers have to be strong. So I went to this dealership owner, about man in his mid-50s. He was chewing pan and I was sitting across the table, and I was trying to tell him why he should follow processes and why I had benchmarked his processes with some competitor and why he should follow processes. The guy heard me for 10 minutes and then he packed the pan into the bin in front of me. He opened the drawer. He put a gun in front of me and he said, "Chokre, zindagi mein kattha dekha hai?" Obviously, I had not seen a kattha before. So I looked up to him. I thought, I was 23, 24, fairly smart ass. So I thought I will pass a cheap comment and say, "ये खिलौना है कि ये असली चलता भी है?" Thankfully, good sense prevailed and I didn't say it was a real gun, by the way. But these are experiences that you will actually meet, and every consultant has gone through this. So he was obviously, it was a stunt. He was testing me, and someone had told me before that he will pull a gun, but don't worry, he will not shoot you. And I was like, how do you know he will not shoot me? So he said, in the last 3 years, consultant from this company has died on that client. So don't worry, he was not going to kill you. Fine, I survived. That's why I'm talking to you today. Then he took me to his house. It was a huge farm behind the dealership. This is, some of you know Gorakhpur, this is Basti district. And there he had, this like 12, 14 buffaloes and cows in a shed. And he started milking one of them and say, "Chokre, ye doodh na bahut fresh hai, tu pee le isko." This is raw, unpasteurized milk, which is actually stinking. And I had got a new suit. Those days Arrow New York had just got launched. I was in consulting, my first salary. I had got this new suit and it was a New York zero calorie collection and I'm drinking it. and I could feel all the bacteria and the virus going down my throat. Some of the droplets are falling on my new suit. I can't tell him anything because he's the client. He also has a gun. So some of these experiences you will have in consulting. You will meet some unbelievable quality of people. I remember when I was 27, and this was 2014, 15, and we were working for one of Delhi's biggest businessmen. He was actually the FII, the FICI head or CII head at that point. He's a very, very big businessman, one of the richest business families in India. So we were doing a project for him, and one of the evenings, I was a senior consultant then, which is like, if you understand, it's just level below the manager, engagement manager. So there was next day was an update with his entire family, and the family is like worth 10, 15 billion dollars. And my partner came and said, "कल तू बात करने वाला है, मैं बस चुप करके बैठेगा." I obviously thought he was joking. The next morning, the meeting was at 12 o'clock. And the partner, he's a Delhi-based partner, likes a lot of street food. So he got rabdi, he got samosas in the morning. And he actually looked at me and he said, Sandeep, तू rabdi meeting के बाद खाना क्योंकि तेरा गला खराब हो जाएगा. And that's when I realized he was actually not joking. So I walked into the meeting. This guy's Ajay Sriram, by the way, the DCM Sriram Guru. I have Ajay Sriram, who's at that point the FICI head. I have both the Sriram brothers. That's together 50,000 crores sitting on the table. This is the boardroom where the CEO of every Sriram company is sitting there. My partner is sitting in one corner and I am presenting for 45 minutes. My first reaction when this happened, I went up to him and said, "Yeah, you can't do this to me like this. I mean, how can you do such a thing like this to me?" But this is the sort of experience a consulting firm will give you. And a lot of times in the future, when a 27-year-old addresses India's most powerful businessman and literally tells him how to do business, some of these experiences no other industry can give you. So this is one in terms of the pros. In terms of some of the cons, so the pros I spoke about, you'll get phenomenal travel, you will meet phenomenal people, you will have unbelievable experiences, you will actually learn a lot about business, you will think about how CSOs run. What are some of the cons of both these industries? The hours are brutal. Make no mistake about it. Consulting is 12 to 14 hours a day. FMCG is 12 to 14 hours a day. The question of work life is an absolute myth. And if we hire from IIT Bombay, I don't think we do, but if we ever hire, I will only come to do hiring, and I will tell you the exact opposite of what I'm telling you right now. That we are very conscious about work life. We want to ensure you are happy both in the work and the private space. But the real life is work life is a complete myth. You should be ready to let go of your weekends. You should be ready to let go of your birthdays, your anniversaries, your foreign vacation. Work life is a complete myth in both the places. It is brutally competitive because the best of people from each institute come in. So people like you, your peers will come in. So it's extremely competitive. And as a result, what happens is a lot of people exit this industry. So in consulting, let me give you some numbers. If, say, 100 people join as, I think you're called in as analysts, 100 people join as an analyst, within 2 years, 50% of the people will leave. This is a number even true for MBAs. If 100 MBAs join in as consultants into a consulting firm, within 2 years, 50% people will leave. Within 3 to 4 years, 70% people will leave. Some of them leave because they get very good options in e-commerce, other firms, industry roles. Some of them just leave because they're tired. So this is in terms to give you a view in terms of what is happening in the consulting and the FMCG space and what you should expect in these roles. The next thing I want to talk about is in terms of, I was looking at some of the questions that were being asked, and a lot of questions are related to how do you crack into this? What does it take to get into a management consulting firm? What does it take to get into an FMCG firm? And what can you do as a result over the next 1 year? Now, I'll give you a real sense because I do recruiting for my company and for my previous company, Accenture, for most of the IIMs and ISB I used to do. I still do. So I'll give you a real sense of what happens in terms of that. So let's start with a consulting firm, and this is the leftmost column on the slide. The first thing is about a resume. Now, when companies come to your campus, I'm sure they tell you that you make a resume, then there's a panel of 5 people that sits. They will scan through each resume. They will figure out each resume and they'll club them into red, yellow, green. So the green people get an immediate shortlist. The red people are clear rejects, and the yellow people, 3 partners sit down and debate the candidate, and then they take a call. This whole process is done over 2 days. This is what is officially told you. Let me tell you what actually happens. and I do this because I lead recruitment for a lot of companies. What actually happens is no person, even like me, gives more than 30 seconds to a resume because more than that is honestly a waste of time. So what do we look at when we evaluate a resume? The first thing that we look at is a sense of balance. So we read from top to down. So in terms of when you make a resume, your resume has to be made in such a way that it is in descending order of strength. If you believe your positions of responsibility are number one, it should be number one. If you believe your academics is number one, it should be number one. If you believe your hobbies are number one, you should put it in descending order of strength. That is point one. Even within a section, we don't read the whole thing. So if you have a section, say academic papers or research papers, and if you have written 7 points in it, nobody's going to read it. I typically read only the first 2 lines. So how do you catch my attention? So the first line in any section, you should typically write it as an aggregate view. So for example, if you're doing academic projects that published 6 papers, did 7 projects, won X accreditations, and led to this impact. So put it in aggregate numbers. That's how you will catch my attention. So when you make a resume, the 2 key principles are it has to be in descending order of strength. And the first 2 points in each section have to be very strong. And how you make it very strong, it is in write it in aggregate sense. So if you are someone who's very strong in sports, took part in 5 inter-IIT competitions, won 6 medals, led 3 teams. If you're very strong, say from a consulting club, organized these many talks, you get it, right? It has to be an aggregate level. So that's how you really make your resume stand out. What do we typically look for? We look for people who are balanced. We don't look for outliers. So if, for example, if you have an institute rank 1 that has done nothing else in life, a consulting firm will unlikely they will pick him, or even if they pick him, he won't succeed. An FMCG firm definitely not pick him. We always pick people who are balanced, who have a bit of acads, who have a bit of leadership, a bit of sports, a bit of hobbies. So everything in life they should have done something, and it need not be exceptional, but they should have done something. That is what essentially firms look for. Now, I'm still on the left side, which is consulting. Then you will have the interview stages. And I understand in IITs, it starts at 5 a.m. in the morning in the first week of December. Typically, you will have 3 to 5 interviews. The first interview is taken by a manager or a principal, and it moves forward to a partner. So what gets asked in the interview, and how do we evaluate it? So the first 5 or 10 minutes in any interview is typically the personal question. So what do we mean by personal question? So I read your resume and I will ask you a question based on what I read in the resume. So how you should prepare is every line you write in that resume, you should be able to talk for about 30 seconds. Every line. Because whatever catches my eye, I will just ask you. It's a conversation breaker. It is just to see how a guy is easy to interact or not. The second type of questions are the actual cases. Now it's very easy to crack the actual cases. There's a lot of content that is online. There are a lot of case study books. I'm assuming you guys have DC++. We used to have DC++, and I'm sure it's a common network in IITs also. And there's a lot of case study books. There's the Fuqua School of Business, HBS, Stanford. They all have case study books. So what are typical cases which you can prepare on? One is how to increase revenue, how to save on costs, how to evaluate a new market, how to grow exports. These are common cases you have to be prepared on. But what happens is when someone like me comes in, because I've been on that side, I also know you guys are prepared on this. So I will obviously take you off path. And this is what people like me do. And a lot of recruiters like me who come from, who handle the big institutes do. One, we will give you a live project. Exactly where I'm stuck today, I will give you. And you might have not heard anything. So today I might come and say, I am running a 200 crore company which is producing in Tirupur in Tamil Nadu. And you have no damn clue what I'm talking about. But that's something I will give and I will help you out. The second thing, when I see a resume and I realize a guy is very smart and is well prepared, or a guy or a girl is very smart, very well prepared, I will completely throw them off and give them questions like this to see how they handle it. A white sheet of paper, I've done this so many times at ISB. A white sheet of paper, I will put at the candidate, and you should try solving this case yourself. And I will say, this is a modern art painting. Put a price to this painting. And everything you've learned about case studies and problem solving will go out of the window, and real IQ will start coming at that point. The second type of case I typically give to completely throw people off, and you guys again should practice this, is MS Dhoni comes to you for advice. And MS Dhoni's question to you is, should I retire now or should I retire 2 years later? In fact, actually today, some of you should do this case with each other. One of you pretend to be MS Dhoni and the other guy try solving. You'll be amazed at what a beautiful case study this is. Or the third type of case study I look at is Shah Rukh Khan comes to you and says, what should I do over the next 5 years in my life? And so these are case studies you typically throw at students and they don't know what is coming. And it exposes true problem solving at this point. So that is in terms of consulting and preparation for that. Now I'm coming to the second column in this slide, which is about getting into an FMCG firm. Like I said earlier, in terms of consulting, there is a lot of balance that is valued, but a certain amount of academic strength is always valued in a consulting firm. You typically need to be top 20 to top 25 or top 25 to top 30% of the batch to cut to the shortlist. In general, there are obviously outliers here and there. FMCG is not so serious about academics. They look at more in terms of positions of responsibility. What have you done in terms of student clubs? What have you done? So if you have something related to Moodai, that will be an outstanding point. A sponsorship, events, clubs, talks. A lot of that is looked into FMCG. And there's a reason why that is looked at. Because in FMCG, you're typically handling people at every point. If you're in marketing, you have to understand consumer behavior. If you're in sales, you have to understand your channel partners, your distributor, your retailer, your sales members. If you are at the back end, you're most likely dealing with some very large pharma. You're dealing with a lot of tech companies. You're dealing with e-com companies. And people's skills and ability to negotiate matters at every point. And that is what people try to see on the resume. So if your internship is not in an FMCG or in a consulting firm, does it hurt you? The answer is, if you had it, it would benefit you. But if you don't have it, it will not hurt you as long as you show these skills. Now, when you come to the interviews, and the process of FMCGs across IITs and IIMs is fairly similar. You typically have a GD and you have to make your presence felt in the GD, but not be rude and kill somebody else, but make your presence felt. In the interviews, people actually put you, and I know this because I've done this, people actually put you at difficulty and ask you some very difficult questions. So I'm giving you 2 or 3, and think over how would you answer this. One, your largest distributor, a distributor who does say 30% of your territory, has done something wrong. Now you are on track to becoming the best performing ASM this year, which means it will give you phenomenal visibility into the company and you'll get your dream marketing job. But you have 1 month for the year to end. You know your largest distributor has done something wrong. What do? You'd keep your mouth shut, or do you shut the distributor down? If you shut the distributor down, your sales tank because he's your largest distributor, and the company might or might not say, you did the right thing and might penalize you. Think of how you would answer this question. The second question is, your boss is asking you to do something illegal. But it's a gray area. So for example, he's asking you to forge a few bills of 800 rupees to 1000 rupees. What do you do? The third thing is, you have to, in FMCG, what happens is your team that will work with you, if you are say 21, 22 entering the job market, your team will be 45, 46. They are rankers who've grown up from the field. You will be asked in the interview that I am working for your team. I report to you. I have 25 years of work experience and you have to fire me. How will you do this conversation? So practice some of these questions because you might expect some of these questions or versions of this. So this is in terms of how do you crack into a consulting firm? How do you crack into an FMCG firm? Now coming to the most important thing is, what exactly can you do? Because if your placements are starting in December, you have 3-4 months to go to crack into these firms. Now, the best piece of advice, and I did not do it, but I think the best piece of advice to all of you is pick up a business newspaper. I typically pick up Mint, but pick up Economic Times or Mint, whatever you have readily accessible, and spend 1 hour on that, reading every word on that page. Now, you might not understand a lot when you start off with, but if you read it for 3 to 4 months, you will understand basics of every industry. You will understand how telecom runs, how mining runs, how financial services runs, how FMCG runs. When you walk into the consulting interview, and no matter what case is thrown, you would have read something about that industry. You will not start on a clean slate. Similarly, If you keep reading the newspaper every day, you would have read something about what Levers is doing, something about what P&G is doing. You will be not completely off. And I cannot stress this enough. In my mind, it's the single biggest thing you can do going till December. Spend 1 hour every day on reading any business newspaper end to end, and it will help you immensely. I'm sure a lot of you do it. If you really do it every day, it will really help you. The second thing that goes around is this concept of negative visualization. And I come from the batch of 2009, and we had a very difficult. So just to give you some context, and I'll talk about it later. I went to IIM in 2007. In 2008 were my summers, and the summers of IMB in 2007 and 2008 beginning was the greatest we ever had in the history of that institute. In my personal case, I had 16 interviews on day zero. There was a McKinsey partner and a BCG partner fighting over me. When I got finally my BCG internship, they would not let me. There were 8 partners from BCG guarding me so that I could not walk over to the McKinsey side. This is what happened in my summers. 2009, we sat in our finals. It was the worst finals IMB has ever seen in its history. In my summers, there were 140 day zero offers. In our finals, there were 6 day zero offers. Very few people got PPOs. It was a complete mess. For some of us, at least for me, it took 3 days going through 25 rejections, and finally I had to beg to get a job. And the kind of stress that kind of an environment puts you is unbelievable. And this is where this technique of negative visualization starts coming. And a lot of sportsmen do it. Apparently, MS Dhoni was very famous. He used to do this. And it's basically this. You have this conversation with yourself. Don't laugh about it. If you think it's trivial, it's not, because of the stress it creates. So have a conversation that, say, if you are targeting a company for the purpose of discussion, McKinsey, ask yourself, what happens if I don't get through McKinsey? Then you will think, okay, my next best option is probably Bain. Ask yourself, if I don't get into Bain, what happens? Then you think, okay, AT Kearney. I don't get into AT Kearney, what happens? Then you will think, okay, what if Uber? Keep going down this list and telling yourself, what if this doesn't happen? What if this doesn't happen? What if this doesn't happen? And fundamentally come to that final question at the end, what happens if I don't get a job? And when you can answer that question, and answers to what happens if I don't get a job, answer can be that I will do a master's degree, I will start my own firm, I will do something at IIT Bombay, I will just go back to teaching, I will relax in life. If you can tell yourself and you can be comfortable with your worst case, when you walk into your interview, you will not panic. That's what happens. Apparently, what MS Dhoni used to do, and this is one of the reasons why he had such a calm mind, he often used to tell himself, what happens if I lose the captaincy? What happens if I'm dropped from the Indian team? What happens if Jharkhand doesn't pick me? What happens if CSK rejects me? What happens if I can't play cricket anymore? And he had told himself that if I have just 30 lakhs in life, I will buy a farmhouse in Ranchi and I will live there happily for the rest of my life. And that is what he should tell himself every day. If all of this goes haywire, my worst case is still good enough. And this is a very powerful tool which tennis players do, which management professionals do. It will help you keep a calm head and try and answer this question to yourself. What happens if I don't get a job? And if you can do that, you will see your productivity in your placements will shoot up. The other point I want to speak about, and this is primarily more for engineering graduates rather than management professionals, is I've been a part of many committees, and there is a significant difference. So if you look at the typical IIT student versus the typical IIM student, the IIT student will be very smart, very smart. Even if he's not studied business, his business acumen intuitively will be very good compared to an IIM student. But where the IIT student will typically lack is he will, in general, not talking about you, in general, will have fairly inferior communication skills. So if you think that you might have some of this issue, there are 2 things you should do. And this I did it when I was in engineering. I didn't go to an IIT, but this is what I did when I was in engineering, and to a certain extent in an IIM. One is you have to get your diction right. How do you pronounce words? It matters a lot in interviews like this. So pick up Netflix, pick up DC++, just watch some of these documentaries. Watch the documentaries on business, watch the documentaries on politics, watch the documentaries on history. You will not only learn, but you will slowly start getting your diction right. The second thing what you should do is what we used to do in college, which is called JAM. I'm sure you guys also do this. Just ask your friend to write some phrase on business. So, for example, a phrase on business could be rising e-commerce in India. Think about it for 30 seconds and start speaking to yourself in the mirror, and try speaking to yourself in the mirror for about 2 minutes. And do this every day till December. Do this one on one. So you can also go to Google and click on I am feeling lucky. And whatever phrase you pick from there, think of it for 30 seconds, stand in front of the mirror and just talk. You'll be amazed over a period of time how strong your communication skills will become. So this is in terms of what it means for you. Now, I saw some of the other questions and they were asking me about the overall outlook in terms of placement. This is my personal take. So what are the industries that will definitely struggle in my view? Anything related to tourism, anything related to hospitality like hotels, anything related to travel will completely struggle. Some of the startups, in my view, are struggling with cash right now. So, in my view, some of the not so well funded startups, you will see will struggle to pick a lot of people. What will do well? In my view, the consulting firm should do very well because now work is coming back. FMCG, uh, initially the first half of the year didn't go well. H1 was about -6%, but H2 is expected to be +6. So FMCG should be sort of okay. Some of the more core engineering, manufacturing companies like L&T, the hiring should be all right. So if I have to give you a sense, say if hiring in 2019 was 100 and in 2009 was 20, in my view, this placement season will be about 80 to 85 is what I would think. But given that you are IIT Bombay and the best place to get a job, it might actually be close to 100 also. That's my view on placement. Moving to the next part, and this is what I want to speak about is, how are careers expected to be in this decade? A lot of you are entering the job market this year or next year. A lot of you will go on to do MBAs from Ivy League, and you will have very illustrative, very renowned, very good careers. What are some of the things that you should keep track of? And all of this is coming on the back of very, very strong research. One, the way careers, I'm reading from left to right on this slide. The way careers are going to expand in this decade and what you should expect is one, careers will be non-linear. So for example, first 2 years you might go to a consulting firm, then 2 years you will go to study, the next 2 years you will go teaching into your town, the next 2 years you will start up, the next 2 years you will do e-commerce, the next 2 years you will teach at a B school, the next 2 years you'll come back to a consulting firm. There is no clear path that is likely. What is likely to happen? You will do non-linear stints across industries. The second thing that a big trend you will see with your careers is each of you will have multiple careers because so you each of you will have a primary career which could be consulting, FMCG, technology, but each of you will also have a secondary career. It might be your business you're starting in parallel. Some of you will have creative interests. Some of you will want to just start a trekking club, public speaking club. So there will be multiple careers each of you will work with going forward. And there's a reason to this because the main career, irrespective of what you do, while it gives you your bread, it gives you money, but it's very frustrating and it's very depressing, but it gives you money. So, for example, just to break some myth, if you are getting into, for the purpose of discussion, into McKinsey this year or next year, what I'm telling you is not going to happen. It's not going to happen that you are going to, after joining McKinsey in 3 months, walk into the boardroom of RIL and you will have Mukesh Ambani sitting on the other side and you'll go to him and say, Mukesh, let me tell you what you're doing is wrong and let me tell you how the right thing to do is this. This is not going to happen. In the first 2 years, whether you're in FMCG, whether you're in consulting, whether no matter which big company you work for, you are going to be one step higher than the janitor or the person who maintains the admin. You are going to collect data. You are going to do 12 hours of Googling. You are going to do primary research. You are going to go to some village and do research. And as you keep growing up also, you will start questioning if this is really worth it. Even if you pick up entrepreneurship, I know IIT Bombay is the hotbed of entrepreneurship. As long as you're doing something original, you'll be happy. As long as you're doing something which is a copycat of a China or a US model, you'll be miserable. And hence what people are saying is multiple careers will be the norm. One which will give you your bread, the other which will nourish your soul. The second thing what you will see, and I'm moving to the second part, is the way your careers will evolve. You should not assume that once you pass out of IIT Bombay and potentially go to a Stanford, your education is over. No. You will have from 20 years, 20 to 55, you will have 5 to 6 mini degrees coming up. You might go to Stanford for an MBA, but after 4 5 years, you might go to Oxford to understand writing. You might join Mica 4 years later to understand advertising. You might go to INSEAD to do leadership. You will have lifelong education. That is what you should expect. Your education will not, formalized education will not end with your master's or your MBA. The third thing, and I saw a couple of questions with respect to this, is that it is unlikely a lot of you will find your true calling in the 20s and the 30s. And this is completely all right. If people say you should know by 25 or 30 what you should do in life, it's truckload of crap. Even in your 40s, you might not know what you're doing. And this is perfectly all right. You keep going through a non-linear maze and somewhere down the line, things fall into place. And you should perfectly know that. So if you are in IIT and if you believe that I have no clue what I am doing, I've struggled 11 and 12 to come here, what I'm learning is of no use to me, don't worry. 80% of the people are in this space. The next, I'm coming to the second row now, and I'm talking about financial security. As you keep moving forward, you will see that managing your money will become very important because the more money you have, the more security you will have. You don't need to do that crappy job anymore. And some of the mistakes which millennials make, and or Gen Z as they call you, is you should be very smart when managing money. And some of the principles you should follow are this: one, avoid all instruments which are risky and you don't understand. Avoid crypto, avoid Bitcoin, avoid arbitrage funds. Anything that you don't understand as a measure of risk, you should completely avoid. If I have to recommend a portfolio allocation, even for someone who's like 21, 22, put 60 to 70% of your money in secure debt instruments. And it doesn't mean FDs, it could still mean debt funds, but some funds which are secure so that over a period of 10 years, compounding kicks in. And the remaining 20 to 25% play a bit of risk in terms of equity. A lot of people will give you this advice that equity is the future, equity will beat inflation, but that's not true. If you look at the decade that is coming up, the equity markets, what they give is a reflection of the GDP of India. And the GDP of India is likely to be between 5 to 6%. So the equity market is also going to give you around 5 to 6% this decade. The inflation is expected to be 4 to 5%. So in terms of equity beating inflation, that is not true. And there's a lot of risk you're taking. So if you have to look at saving money, it has to be 60 to 70% in fixed, secure debt instruments, and the remaining 20 to 30% you take some amount of risk. There's a lot of research that is being done in terms of how people will take risk in this decade. You know, in the 2010s, at least when we were growing up, there was a fantasy that one day you would come to office, you would leave everything, and you would either take up a career in acting or Sushant Singh Rajput, for example, one day from college he just ran away, or you would just give up your job, start your own firm, or start your own bakery, or you would just drop out of a engineering institute and start your own company. I think those days are gone. A lot of research has proved that risk taking is going to be incremental. What does this mean for you? So tomorrow, if you are in a job and you want to start a company, you will actually do your job and you will start your e-commerce engine in parallel for 12 months till you are a certain amount of scale, and only then you will leave. Second thing, if you are saving money, you will actually keep 70 to 80% in secure deposits. Only 5% you will put in a supremely risky instrument. And if it clicks, it's very good. If it doesn't, you will not take a hit. So the risk taking, the nature of risk taking is no longer about I will leave everything. And so, for example, if you decide to pursue a creative interest, it's not that one day you will leave everything and get into the world of acting. You will do it in a very incremental way. If it means you're starting your own firm right now, and earlier the risk taking was you would shell out your share, get PE money, grow at all costs. That is not likely to happen. In this decade, what you will see will happen is some of you will actually say, let me stay small, but let me have control and let me grow sustainability. It's my company. I don't need to grow that fast, and let me have control over the company. One of the biggest themes that is likely to happen in your careers, and I'm sure some of you are already doing this, is to look at work-life balance. The days when it was glamorous to work 12 to 14 hours are done. Work is about 8 hours, and it will be that this decade. When you choose a job over a period of this decade, that is what you will demand from your employer. Because a lot of you will say, I want to run for an hour. I want to spend time with my family for an hour. I want to read for an hour. I want to watch Netflix for an hour. I want to sleep for 7, 8 hours. And I'm ready to take a 20% pay cut to get work-life balance. So these are some of the trends which will play out in your careers. And these are some of the best practices also that are recommended. I will come to the last part of my presentation in terms of some of the learnings from the 2008 recession. And like I was giving you context I come from the batch of IMB 2007 to 2009, and our summers were the greatest ever the history has ever seen, and our finals the worst the institute has ever seen. And I hope this year is not that bad. These are some of my key learnings over a period of time. In a recession or in a bad year, as this year is, and even if you're IIT Bombay, you should take this advice very seriously, that take the least miserable option. So if I had to go to a consulting firm and I had to redo this all over again, I would have probably said I have shortlist from calls from McKinsey, BCG, Bain 80K, but let me choose 80K because that's the least miserable option I am with. It is in a market like this, you should ideally not go for the best one, but choose the least one which is sort of bearable. You should and to give you some cricketing parlance, it is a difficult pitch. And in a difficult pitch, sometimes you just target a score of 200. In 50 overs, if you can get to 200, you know it's a good score. You don't target 300. And this is exactly that pitch. So in my opinion, you should take the least miserable option. The second thing, what will happen, and as you enter the placement season, there will be tension on campus. A lot of companies will come. There will be rumors. People will be getting worried. There you will have a neighborhood auntie in your home who will say, "Sharma ji ke bete ko itne lakh mile, tere ko kya milne wala hai?" All of this you will start having, and the way to take care of this is to build a routine. So fix a time when you will get up, and it doesn't need to be 5 a.m. It can be 9 a.m. Fix a time you will get up. Fix a routine. This is the time you will play. This is the time you will go to sleep. This is the time you will watch Netflix. This is the time you will go and flirt with a girl. So if you build a routine, it will help clear your mind from this everyday tamasha that you're going to face over the next 4 months. One of the things you should definitely look at in terms of learning I had from the 2008 recession is you should not let your job be a reflection of your profile. Your job is important, but always have a bigger interest, something which gives you happiness or joy. It could be as simple, in my case, it was writing and speaking. It could be writing poetry. It could be shooting movies. It could be gardening. It could be running. It could be walking. It could be photography. It could be any of these things. And always identify that one interest and keep pursuing it for years and years and years. It'll give you joy, and someday it will take over as your primary career. The next thing I'll say is for some reason, in a bad market, what happens is all of you will not get the jobs of your choice. And because of the incredible pressure you will have in the system, each of you will have to convince yourself that it is all right. India at the end of the day is growing at 5 to 7%. It's a matter of just 4 to 5 quarters before things recover. In our case, it took about 2 years when we passed out for things to come back to a normalcy. And some of us were okay with the jobs we had got because at the end of it, some of us, were big fish in a small pond and doing very well. The companies were recognizing. A lot of us continued with our first jobs. And even people who wanted to shift, they shifted. But in a matter of time, things actually equalize. Over a period of just 5 to 6 quarters, you will see all the big jobs will start coming back. They'll hiring at that level. So you should not take any of this to heart. The next thing I'll talk about is sometimes a recession is a blessing in disguise. Uh, what happens is all of us have grown up in this system where we all have succeeded at every point in life in class 10, class 12. You guys would have succeeded in IIT, semester one, semester two. And people are used to 99% success, and real life doesn't work that way. Real life is you will succeed 50% of the time, you'll fail 50% of the time. In a consulting job, 50% of your partner reviews will go well, 50% of your partner reviews won't go well. In an FMCG job, 50% of the months you will meet your targets, 50% of your months you won't meet your targets. When you go through an experience like this, when you see the stress, the nervousness, it actually builds a lot of resilience and you're geared up to face life. Some of us, I think, have done very well because of the slaughter we went through in 2009. And it helped us actually grow very fast in our careers because we had the emotional maturity to do it. The final thing I learned, and this is slightly philosophical, is when things don't go well in your life, and going well is not going well is also relative, you will actually come to know who your real friends are. Uh, One thing you will always see, there are certain sort of people who will always back you, and that is your faculty. Your faculty will always back you. You might have not attended their classes, you might have made fun of them, you might have made rumors about them, but they will always back you. Your friends, if for some reasons don't go well, might or might not back you. And a recession is a good time for you to know who your real friends are and who are not. So this is a short take I had in case I'm happy to take questions. And like I was telling Rishikesh also, I do PR at every forum I go. So these are some of the books I've written. Please do read. I'm hoping you will like them. And if you want to stay connected and reach out to me, I am fairly active on social media. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a channel on YouTube where I talk on contemporary topics, and I'm also available on Twitter. So I have spoken a lot. I've spoken for 1 hour, and I am happy to take your questions now.
Uh, Hi, sir. So, thank you for the amazing talk. Like, it was really engaging, and we all enjoyed it a lot. So, Dishant, could you please take questions from the chat box? And
Yes, I'll do that.
yeah, sure. Thanks.
So there's one question,
Okay.
the Q&A section. Joining for MBB, AT Kearney, etc. for people recruited in 2019 December has been shifted to November or December 2020. Will that impact the hiring in December this year?
It's a difficult question to answer. It is a function of business at that point. See, what happens is a short answer to your question is yes. If last year, if X people were hired, will it be lesser than X? The answer is yes, in my view. Will it be 0.8x or 0.2x? It's a function of business in November. In my view, more than being 0.2x, it will be around 0.8x because a lot of business is coming back in consulting firms.
Okay, right. That question is answered, I guess. And we have another question. Said, sir, you said that if someone is studying from his childhood, so it isn't possible that one day he'll just go and start acting, but it would be incremental. What do you mean by that? Please, a bit of elaboration on that.
Okay. I think it's an excellent question. Uh, See what happened. I will give you my own example. I used to like writing, but I never pursued it seriously. And obviously, we come through our own pressures of engineering school. So once I passed out of IIMB, what had happened is because some of us had very bad finals, it sort of gave us a lot of free time and it cleared us outside the rat race. I mean, we knew we were out of the rat race. The others who were in the rat race knew these guys are not going to come back. And then every day for about 1 or 2 hours, I started working on my writing skill. I would uh, I would work on Saturday, Sunday, and every week I will write 1,000 to 1,200 words. It took me 3 years to churn out the first book, and I started from scratch. And it went through many edits. Then another 2 years it took me for my second book. Then, as my writing got better, I would do 1 to 2 hours a day sometimes, and 2 3 hours over the weekend. Then my first business magazine came, Business World came, and then Fortune came in. Then Outlook came in. Then one of my books is getting considered for a movie studio. So that's what I mean by incremental. Is that even if you haven't started it at a young age, but if you think you're good at it, if you just give 2 to 3 hours a week, and if you keep doing it over a period of 5 years, you will get very, very good at it. That's what I mean. And the opportunities will start coming your way. That's what I meant.
Right. Thank you for answering that question, sir. Is there any other question? Please mention in the chat box.
So, yes, sir, there's a question. Just give me a minute. Uh, Dishant, are you able to see the rest of the question? Because I'm able to see only one question.
Yeah, recent one,
That,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, a question from Mitwik. Most FMCG hire from MBA. So if a fresh graduate from IITB, is there something we can do in terms of some certification or anything else to get into FMCG?
Just repeat that question so that I answer it absolutely correctly once.
Yeah, so the question is most FMCG hire from MBA. So if
Mm-hmm.
as a fresh graduate from IITB, is there something we can do in terms of some certification or anything else to get into FMCG?
If they are not coming to your institute, it is very difficult. If they are coming to your institute, you can go through the process I spoke about. But I don't know if a Levers comes to IIT Bombay, but if they don't, it is going to be very, very difficult. So if you are asking, can I do a course on Coursera or one of these firms, I don't think it's going to help you. If you're asking me if there's some certification, if I do, will it help me? The answer is no. If it's not coming on your campus, it's going to be difficult.
Okay, right. Another question, I guess, talked about this in the session, but just for the sake of it, what does really FMCG look into a candidate?
Yeah, so that's again a good question. See, FMCG, what people, especially when we look at people who are balanced. One, that is balanced, meaning you don't need to be exceptional, but you should have had decent acads. You should have done a bit of extracurriculars. Whatever you do on your profile, there should be consistency and there should be balance. That's one. The second thing which is valued a lot are people skills, because you will be handling a lot of agencies, consumers, trade
Sorry to
partners. So
interrupt, sir. Just there was an extension to that question. I forgot. The person I just mentioned. More specifically, if you are from CS majors, that is the complete question. Sorry to
again, yeah,
interrupt.
if you're coming from CS, I assume it's computer science, but if you're coming from a computer science stream, what an FMCG will value is how you've done academically, and you need not be the top, but you should have done well. What are some of the impact you've had with your research? And again, you need not be at the top, but some of the tangible impact that you've had with your academic projects. More importantly, what you have done outside in terms of if you have been a part of any festivals, if you've been a part of any student clubs, if you've been a part of any elections, if you've organized meets like this, if you have done in terms of extracurriculars. A lot of that is valued highly in FMCGs.
Right. Thank you for that. And there's another question. It's a bit of a long question, sir. Are you able to view the questions?
I can. So someone's asking about acting. Got into trapped. Loish, I think, trapped into this placement bait. So do you think picking a okay. So I read the question. So read the question. The answer is yes. The answer is you can manage both. And I'm not giving you theoretical gyan. I'm the guy. I'm sitting here. I've managed a consulting career for 10 years, and I have written 3 books. I have written 100 columns for Fortune, Business World, and Outlook. I have a video channel. I speak at business schools. I've traveled to 40 countries, and I run 12 kilometers a day. So the answer is, can you manage it? The answer is yes. And I'm a live example that you can manage it. All it takes is some intelligent time management. You have to be consistent at it. You have to need the right coaching, and you can manage it. The answer is yes. Secondly, if you're searching me on my LinkedIn profile, I think you should be able to get it, or I will maybe mail my profile to you. Or all 3 of them, all the organizers are connected with you. Maybe through them we can do it.
Right. Thank you, sir, for that. Another question there is that any reason why core jobs like that of L&T will shoot up?
Because I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be fine. I don't know if they'll shoot up because I think the economy is recovering See, when hiring happens in the month of December, people basically take a call that because you guys will be joining the workforce in May, June, that next May, June, how will the economy be? And right now, the consensus belief across a lot of these core sectors is by next June, which is 1 year away, things will actually be better than what we were before COVID in 12 months' time. And hence, when these companies will make offers, they are planning for growth. And all these core sector companies will actually do very well. Construction, manufacturing, machinery, infrastructure, they should do very well. And I don't think these core sectors will actually take a hit when it comes to making job offers.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Yes.
Yes,
Is there any other question?
Yeah,
Just
Dishank.
there are a few other questions.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah,
they were
in
in
the
the
going
other
on.
chat section.
Yeah. Isha, you continue?
So yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
So firstly, thank you for such an insightful session. You have given
Thank you.
amazing tips for placement students, but are there any tips for people who will be having consulting firm interviews for the internships in a week? Any quick preparation advice?
So when is your internship? When are these interviews scheduled?
The
They are
season
from
is going to
11th.
start on 8th
Yeah,
of August.
Oh, 11th meaning like 1 week down the line.
yeah.
Yeah, 1 week down the line. See, a few small things, a small few things you can do is, I'm sure you guys do this. I'm just re-emphasizing it again. On your resume, whatever line you have written, ensure you can speak for 30 seconds on each line. That is one. Second, if you can figure out who is, I don't know if it's legal or not, but if you can figure out, say, for the purpose of discussion, BCG, the 4 people who are coming, and if you can get their names and study them on LinkedIn, you will come to know which sort of industries they have worked in, what sort of work they have done. And if you do some basic Googling on them, you will have a good idea of what sort of case studies might come your way. But I mean, this is a slightly far shot, but you can definitely 30 seconds on each line you should do. And to be honest, the last 2 days, you should actually not do anything. So the last 2 days, you should just switch off everything, switch off your phones, everything, and just sit there, sleep, and come. That's the best thing you can do.
Right, thank you for the answer. And here's the next question. Hello, Sandeep sir. Could you kindly elaborate on why one should choose a lesser reward option with reference to the point, taking the less miserable option?
See, it's the cricketing analogy I'll give you first, and then I will give you what happens in business. In a difficult pitch, say if you're batting on a Lord's pitch and you're having a one-day match, if you chase 300, there's a high risk you will get out for 70. But if you target 220, you will actually be around 200 to 210, and the match is still on. In simple English, it is that. What happens with some of, and this is coming from personal experience, because we only prioritize literally a McKinsey and a BCG, what happens is you ignore a lot of other firms, and those companies take so long in the process and they make only one offer. You actually end up losing like 10 or 12 decent mid-sized companies, and you will not be left with much. So in a difficult market, you should not go for the high risk, high reward option. In a difficult market, you should be sensible and choose something which does not make you miserable. Again, this comes from personal experience. It depends from person to person.
All right. Next question is recommendations for efficient ways of improving communication and synthesis skills important for consulting interviews. Okay, you had covered that, but
I can
if you
still
could
answer
just,
that if you want, or you want me to repeat that
yeah,
quickly? Or
yeah, please.
yeah. So yeah, 2 things what you can do, and this is again coming from personal experience. What I have done, one is watch a lot of business documentaries. You will see them on Netflix. There'll be podcasts. Watch them. So one, you will learn. Two, you will have a good diction. That is one. And the second thing, what I used to do is just I Google, just click on I'm feeling lucky and type business and say I'm feeling lucky. The first article you get, just read the headline, sit quiet for 30 seconds and try talking on that topic for 2 minutes in front of the mirror, just alone when you're doing it. Do this for 3 months. You will see a phenomenal increase in your communication ability.
Yeah, I think that clarifies it further. Next question is, you talked about how the top jobs in consulting, etc., demand much time and work from its employees. How do you do justice to your personal life in these cases?
Yeah, it is very difficult. I can see Kanishk has asked this question. I say this is very difficult. Some of the things which I have done are that over the weekends, I have consciously taken time for my personal hobbies out. I consciously uh, put in 2-3 hours on a Saturday, 2-3 hours on a Sunday. That is something I do. The second thing, what you should do is, even in a high pressure job, you should start aligning yourself to good bosses. Some of the work hours in these industries are not necessarily because there's that much work, but because some people are just more ghisu and keep making you do useless work, and some people are more shana and they manage with lesser work. So if you get a good boss early on, you try and figure out and stay with that guy because he will improve your life. That is one thing you can look at. 3, you should take all your leaves. There are a certain number of leaves you will get. Take all your leaves. Don't let your leaves lapse. Go for vacations. Stay at home. Just sleep at home. That's the third thing you can do. One thing which has worked very well for me is I get up early morning. So I typically get up at 5. And till 5 to 8, I do my personal reading, my personal writing, and running, etc. And the rest of the day, I spend on the job. That is a habit which has held me in good stead.
Right, thank you. That was very insightful. Next question is, I think again you covered this in core, but still, what do you think will be the scenario in terms of hiring for IT technical engineering jobs?
I don't think there'll be an issue. I think you will be fine again because in December when your placements happen, companies will take a call in terms of June. And just to give some numbers, I was seeing the Indian IT companies are expected to do very well from June onwards. And if you're looking at the Amazons and the Googles, they are also looking at a growth path from June. So I don't think if you're looking at IT, data sciences, the specialized tech roles, you will have an issue. There might be an issue from a visa point of view. Some of the international offers might go down, but I don't think the number of offers or the India offers will go down.
All right, great. And along the lines of placement, should we try for off-campus placements as well before the campus placements?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know how it works in IIT. I've never seen this concept of off campus, so I am actually not the best guy to answer this. But if I had to take a guess, I somehow think what you will get at IIT Bombay will be better than anything that can be given off campus. Is my starting call. But again, I have never seen a system like this, so probably I'm not the right person. If I were you, I would avoid doing it. If I were you.
All right. And the next question is, you talked about how the top, just a second, I'm sorry, there's. Yes, how difficult it can be for a student from core, like a master's in chemistry or physics, to join a consultancy.
It is absolutely not difficult at all. I see Shweta has asked this question. Shweta, this is absolutely not difficult at all. Like I said, the evaluation criteria is everything you've done, you should have done it fairly well. Whatever you've done in ACADS should be decent. Whatever you've done with your academic research should be decent. Whatever you've done outside your study should be decent. It is not. So, for example, if you have played golf or squash, and if you've done it well, it will be a huge point because consulting firms don't value exactly what you do, but they actually see can this person excel and do they have the grit and the hard work and the smartness to excel? That is what they evaluate. The actual tangible point really doesn't matter. So for the purpose of discussion, if you have gone and trekked, and if you like trekking and you've trekked 2, 3 mountains, it will be a huge plus point for a consulting firm because it shows you leadership, it shows the ability to pursue against failure. So the answer to your question is it is not difficult at all.
Cool, great. And what is the scope of AI specialist in FMCG or consulting?
I think in consulting, definitely. Because what is happening is a lot of our clients are basically saying that what is the scope of AI, what is the scope of ML, and as a result, consultants have to bring the solution forward. So consulting definitely. FMCG, I am not so sure yet, or maybe Indian FMCG. It also depends on what is defined as AI and what is defined as ML. But to answer your question, consulting definitely, FMCG is probably lagging behind a little.
Okay. And the last question, which is something sort of a buzzword around the campus. Many of our seniors say that PRs are very important to get shortlisted. Is that the case?
I am sorry, what is important?
Person of responsibility, positions
Positions of responsibility.
PRs.
Positions of responsibility, in my opinion, definitely. That is absolutely important. So, for example, in FMCG, definitely, because that's the first section we look at. In consulting, also, that is important. But again, I would say that is number 2 that is important. Even a person like me who looks at a resume, balance is very important. If you have done POR, but your rest of the sections are in very bad shape, you will not make it. it has to be so everything has to be at a bare minimum, and everything should be just average or above average. And one very good POR definitely helps. But in terms of if you're saying recruiter buyer value, number one is balance. Number two is the POR positions of responsibility section. If you don't have a POR, it is still okay. But because if you have whatever you have, someone, for example, doesn't have a POR but is an excellent, say, poetry writer, will get the shortlist.
Okay. In terms of comparison between the POR and internship, so should a person like try for both, focus on one more?
Yeah, the ideal answer is try for both, obviously. But I would say the lens. What you have to do is this: there has to be a balance. That is most important. Don't alienate any section. Whether it is IIT, whether you go to an INSEAD, everything you have to do a bit of it. You can't say I will do one and ignore four. So everything you do a bit. After that, whatever time you get, focus as per your interest.
All right. So I think those were all the questions. Thank you for answering them all.
Just a
Oh,
minute,
there's
Isha.
some in the regular
There are,
chat
yeah,
box also, I guess.
yeah,
Okay, in the
there are a
chat.
few questions.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, I'll take it from here. So there's a question. So how to ensure the recruiter your commitment to the company when they can sense hints of higher education from your profile? So this is a question that I got on personal, so that's why I put it up in the chat box.
No, this is a very good question. You can't, honestly, because the recruiter is probably your senior who's gone through the same system 5 years ago. The best way to answer such a question is I am looking for an international degree and I want to spend 3 to 5 years to build a profile. And after 3 to 5 years, I'm looking to go and pursue an international degree. What it communicates to the recruiter is the guy is honest, and that is most likely what is going to happen. And he's able to communicate it properly. To say that, no, I'm going to stay with you for 10 years is actually a lie, even he knows it. The best way to say it is I'm looking to get good work ex, which I assume will take me 3 to 5 years because I'm looking for the purpose of discussion and an MBA outside, and hence I don't plan to go out before the 3 to 5 years. That's the best answer you can give.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for answering that. There's one more question, so it's a bit a long one. So, what can be the future options for a second year internships in consulting and FMC sector from a core mech who had done a 1.5 month internship for an NGO-backed startup, basically background researching and product databasing and a little bit about management planning?
If your question is, will my future work be linked anyway to my past experience? The answer is no. Whatever you might have done, if this is the experience you're looking at, tomorrow you might go into a mining plant or you might go into a consumer behavior project. So typically in the first 3 to 5 years of consulting, what you have done and what you're going to do have no correlation. It's only after 3 to 5 years is what you start picking up domain expertise and moving forward. So if you are going to get evaluated, I think Shreya Patel has asked the question, if you're going to get evaluated, it will be evaluated on the way of how well you have done that stint rather than what you have done in the stint.
Okay. So Novastri has a question. So does your
engineering knowledge help at all? Is there a way to take a poll on this WebEx?
Yeah.
Is there a way to take a poll?
Yeah, Dishank can create a poll. Dishank.
Rishikesh, I guess
can I, if you don't mind,
right?
can I take
coordinator?
Sorry?
There is no.
You are the poll coordinator, I guess, for now. Can you check if you are able to make a poll?
Okay, just give me a minute.
I'm going to answer this question, but I want to hear from you. From all the, I think there are 60 people on the call. How many of you think your engineering knowledge will help you in life? So yes, Rishikesh, you can just do a yes or no. Yes, meaning your engineering knowledge has been of help to you, and no, your engineering knowledge has not been of help to you. And then I will tell you my answer and what research has indicated.
Yeah, just give me a minute. I'm trying to figure out how to create a poll.
Yeah.
Dishank, do you have any idea how to create a poll, or probably?
Rishikesh, the presenter can create a poll.
Oh,
yeah.
So you can create a poll, but I'm. Dishank,
no problem.
Can you make me the presenter, Dishank? Just give me a minute, sir.
Yeah.
Really sorry. Uh, okay.
In the more options sections, I get there is an option. There will be an option. Let me check.
No, I don't have an option of.
Uh, one
So
sec.
probably we can have it in the chat box, maybe. Yes or no.
Okay, in the chat box, just out of curiosity, can just people on the call, if you believe it has helped you, can you type yes, or if it hasn't helped you, can you type no? Just over the next 30 seconds, let's see what people have to say. Let's keep going. All of you keep typing. Okay, so I'm going through the answers. I think it's about 50 to 60% have said yes, and 30 to 40% have said no. So let me tell you my individual journey, and then I'll tell you what research has proved. My individual journey, when I passed out of engineering in 2006, I thought what I had learned in 4 years was complete waste of time. And although some of you are being polite, I think most of you will have this notion at some point in your mind that what you're learning is a complete waste of time. Over a period, I realized there are certain, and someone answered this, that certain principles you will learn which help you a lot. So I come from computer science. So certain things like boundary conditions, certain things like modularity, certain principles like that about coding, where you look at building an exhaustive view. I think those are some things that have helped me as principles. In my personal interest, I do a lot of writing. For some of you who do computer science, there's something called nesting, right? I mean, you have an if loop, within an if loop, and within an if loop, and then you close the nearest if loop, then the earliest loop, and earliest. It's concept of nesting. When I write plots, and you will be amazed that when characters are written and movie scripts are written, the same principle of nesting is applied. And I used to do this intuitively because I'd learned it in computer science. But when I actually studied movie writing, I realized there's something called nesting, which I actually picked up from computer science. And similarly, even in a lot of other places in writing, I've actually picked up certain principles of programming. So to answer your question, directly no, indirectly yes.
Okay. Got it, sir. Thank you for answering. So we have one more question that we missed in the sea of yes and no's. So just let me get back to it. So someone has asked that does work experience in FMCG also count towards B school applications?
Definitely, definitely. If you're looking at a B school and if you've done FMCG WorkX compared to other forms of WorkX, it is given higher priority. Definitely.
Okay, and there's one more question. It's related to someone asking that do you think that hiring in the finance or analytics sector would be affected drastically in these times?
I So for like I said, if your last year was 100 or X, I think it'll be about 0.8X. Drastically, I am not sure because a lot of see, as post-COVID, a lot of analytics is expected to come up because consumer behavior will be very personalized, segmentation will be very personalized, consumer behavior, and as a result, analytics will shoot up a little more. So I don't think it's going to be drastic. There might be a temporary reduction. If it was X, it'll go down to 0.8X.
Sure, thank you, sir. There's one more question. So Lovish is saying that so I have done an actuarial sciences and currently going for data science job. Will it be helpful for me?
Lokesh, honestly, I have no clue what actuarial sciences is, neither have a clue for a data science job. So, yeah, I'm assuming actuarial is something related to insurance. I assume it is that, what they do in insurance and probability. But honestly, I'm not the right guy to answer this question.
Okay, sir. There's one more question. So, can you elaborate on the question boss is asking you to do something illegal? Natural answer will be no, right? So, what would be the answer?
I'm not going to answer. Think of it. Think of it. All of you think and think of what you have to. So the two, three things, and given good you asked this question. If you take back, please do this case study. And if you have time today or tomorrow, do this case study. MS Dhoni has come to you and he's asked you, should he retire today or should he retire in 2 years? It is not a simple case study, I assure you. You can go on 2 hours. If this was I gave this at ISB, it took 2 hours with a candidate for me. One of you play MS Dhoni, the other guy do this case. You'll be amazed at how nuanced this case is. Do this. The second one, I'm not going to give you the answer. You'll figure that out. Maybe after your placements or one day before your placements, if you're desperate, you give me a call. I'll tell you what.
Okay, sir. Thank you.